Hello, my loves, and welcome to this rather unusual setup. I planned to film outdoors, but it is super stormy today. So I decided, okay, let's just make it cozy and talk indoors about a topic that I wanted to talk about for a long while, but I wanted to really speak from experience. So here we are, and today we are going to talk about the differences between Germany and Sweden, and as I experience them as a highly sensitive person. So first, let's start with what even is a highly sensitive person. If you have never ever heard about this term before, I am here to lighten you up. So a highly sensitive person is someone who has an uncommonly fine nervous system, someone who takes in emotions of others and themselves, but also other sensory input like light or sounds much more intensely than like normal sensitive people. This also means that normal things like loud noises, bright lights, strong smells, or also very uncomfortable clothing that is like itchy or something can become overwhelming really quickly. I can become overstimulated very quickly. And of course, at the same time, things like beauty, be it art or nature, also beautiful music, connection to other people, or emotions are felt and experienced with incredible depth. And that is something very beautiful about this. So highly sensitive people, or also called HSP, often need much more personal space, much more emotional space, also more rest and quiet and a less crowded space, whatever that means for everyone, than other people. But they also come with a huge package of empathy and emotion and intuition and creativity into this world. Please note, and this is very important throughout this whole video, that being an HSP and experiencing life as an HSP is highly individual. There is no right or wrong. There is no one more HSP than someone else. Everyone experiences in their own way, like we all have our own needs. It is super, what was the word? Super subjective. So, to make this clear, as an HSP, the brain works differently. I can't do anything about this. That means that a lot of sensory input and also like emotional things that are going on around me, if people are really angry or anxious, it takes over to my body really quickly, which means that I get overstimulated faster, which means that I need more breaks and more rest. And these breaks and these rests can look differently for me than they are for others. As I said, it's highly individual. But overall, we are much more sensitive to disruption of this calmness again. So if I say I need calm and quiet, this is what I mean. Nothing. Of course, also things like noise-canceling headphones or complete blackout curtains or anxiety blankets, for example, they can really help. But for me personally, even after buying all these things and really trying my best to find peace, I never found it in Germany. And that's why I had to leave. So now, let's start with this extremely subjective but very honest comparison between the country I grew up in, Germany, versus the home of my choice, northern Sweden. And just to give you a little context here, I grew up on the German countryside. So if I talk about noises, I still talk about the German countryside. Yes, I have lived in Berlin too, but we don't need to talk about Berlin here because everyone knows that this city is overwhelming. We talk about what I experienced also on the countryside or in smaller cities on Germany. And now I live in northern Sweden. I live in Jämtland, which is already considered north. And I will put somewhere here, I will also put on a comparison of how many people live there. Like this is Jämtland and this is Saxony, where I grew up. So you have a little context and a little comparison of what we are actually talking about. So let's start with the first basic obvious thing, that is noise and general sensory overload of Germany. Germany is loud. Even in rural areas like where I grew up in, you always have background noises, be it airplanes or cars, traffic, or a construction site, or even like where I grew up, it was agriculture, which is, of course, it's fine. We all need food, right? But there is noise no matter where you go. That is the problem. Nature always feels crowded. The parks are full. Like true silence is very, very hard to find. I personally never found it. For someone like me, that constant buzz, like that constant noise, no matter where you go, is just exhausting. It's hard to get space, like to really be alone, to truly recharge. For this video, I wanted to look up some of my older videos that I recorded in Germany. If I found them, you will see them now.
We are not alone here. Hallo. Und ich hoffe, man hört die Familie im Hintergrund nicht. Okay. Wenn die weg sind. Jetzt sind die dann wieder weg. Kalt, kalt, kalt. Sie können ruhig hier lang gehen. Alles gut. Wie bitte? Sie können ruhig hier lang gehen, wenn Sie wollen. Ist alles gut.
For me, personal space includes some kilometers. I want to have really space for myself. If I don't want to see anyone, then I don't want to see anyone, also not by accident. And this was never possible in Germany. I can't find personal space there the way I need it. In Sweden, especially in the north, you can find untouched nature and stillness and quiet, even close to bigger cities. There simply is more space because there are less people. It is as simply as that. Compared to Germany, Sweden is kind of underpopulated, especially the north. So it's clear that there is simply more space to be. Now I can go outside and I can go wherever I want, and I find this space of stillness and just me being me. This really is a life-changing thing for me. So now, where I live right now, whenever I feel stressed or overwhelmed from working, I just step out my front door. Maybe I go down to the lake if I need that. And I just stand there and feel the stillness and listen to the silence. And all the tension just leaves my body. I just relax. And then I can think clearly again. Next topic is something that I think every one of you will agree with me. And that is social pressure and expectations. Germany versus Sweden. Germany moves so fast. There is a huge focus on achievement, efficiency. It's always pushing. Social norms are quite rigid and don't even think about expressing your emotions like casually. Sentences like "you're too dramatic" or "you're way too sensitive" is something that I bet every HSP who lives in Germany has heard this one of those sentences at least once in their lives. It's like unavoidable. I heard this all the time. And the overall mood of the society, of the people, is super pessimistic. We all know those memes of those Germans who walk around like, and like, what should I say? It is true. It's super pessimistic. And this is like also the only accepted mindset. So if you are optimistic and hopeful and like see always the bright side of life, you are seen as delusional. In Sweden, as I experienced it now, things are much more balanced. The whole mindset of lagom, my channel, not too much and not too little, is deeply ingrained in the people and in the general thinking. People respect your space, they respect your privacy, they are very careful with words, and they really live this "it's none of my business" culture. And I love that so much. No one here expects you to explain yourself all the time or to reach out all the time. There is, in general, so much less pressure put on everyone, and a positive mindset, positive thinking, a thinking of hopefulness and happiness is like accepted. And for me, this is truly refreshing. Work culture and productivity. But I have to say, before I go into that, I have never worked in southern Sweden, and I don't know anyone who has worked in southern Sweden, so I can really only speak for the north here. So let's start with Germany. Germany is efficiency. The work culture is super structured. It's about productivity, efficiency, and results. There is no room for flexibility for people who maybe work with another rhythm, who would maybe need another sort of workflow, or who want to work creatively. There's no space for people who need like slower working, for example. Germans are really like, I don't care how you feel, I don't know what your emotions are. If you are not efficient, if the way that you work is not efficient in my way of thinking, then it's not allowed. Even taking a break, like normal workday breaks, are tightly defined in some people's heads. They were in mine too. It's like during your break, you do nothing. And we literally talk about nothing. If you paint or read a book or maybe move your body during a break, then it can be easily taken as, well, obviously he or she actually didn't really need that break because obviously they can still work. They just don't want to do our work. Like, what the fuck? I have to admit though, it is a little bit changing, but what I experienced still was really not nice. Like, what is a little bit accepted is if you go for a walk in your break. That is commonly accepted now, but otherwise, no. From Sweden, I can only report from secondhand experiences because I have not been working in a company in Sweden for now, but what I have heard from all the people that I have been talking to so far is that Sweden is much different. There's a big focus on teamwork, on supporting each other, and on flexibility. And also there's a lot of trust in the workers. Things like a fika, like having a break together or having also multiple breaks throughout the day, they are completely normal here. They are part of the culture. There's much more room for autonomy. Like I said, the work givers, the employers, they trust you to make your own decisions. And like that gives me a really, really good feeling, because you are not employed somewhere and they think from the baseline on you are too stupid to do the job anyway. But instead, they trust your abilities. The general access to nature and slowness. Germany's nature is organized. I think it's because of the lack of space that we have there in general. While the German nature is very beautiful, don't get me wrong, I love the German nature, it is often really crowded. You just share the place with dozens or hundreds of other people, depending on the season. On top of that, if you are in nature, there is always this like subtle push for movement. There is not really this, yeah, let's go hiking and we enjoy the walk, but it's more like we have a destination, we have a certain time until we get there, so let's keep moving. It's like, don't walk too slow, don't take another picture of this or that. And like, that is not how I want to experience hiking. That is not how I want to experience my time in nature, because I want to be there to enjoy the hike. Even if I don't get to the destination where I wanted, I still enjoyed the path. Like in that video that will be shown somewhere there or there, I took 2.5 hours of walking instead of the 45 minutes that you actually need for that hike. But I enjoyed it so much, like every minute of it. That is just, yeah, the way I want to spend my time in nature. And luckily, that suits very well with the way Swedes spend their time in nature. Here, nature is part of life. Thanks to the Allemansrätten, the right to roam, basically, that you can move freely everywhere as long as you don't destroy or disturb anyone, you can really go everywhere and anywhere, wherever you feel like going. It's really about taking your time in nature, slowing down. It is super normal to have a fika during a hike, to have a break, or to have a fika when you have reached your destination and make a little fire and just enjoy the time there. There is no rush, and it's like nature is part of everyday life, at least for the people that I have met so far. It's like part of life. It's not separate. And this whole mindset and how they approach nature allows you to truly slow down without pressure or guilt. Besides nature, we have general public places in both countries. In Germany, public places are, of course, as everything, super crowded. They are usually very loud, there are bright lights, there are loud noises and a lot of smells. And the worst is that Germany is not prepared for climate change, so we have no air condition, almost nowhere, especially not in trains. So have fun, enjoy your trip in a train during summer holiday when you have like 40 degrees outside and at least 50 degrees in that train. Talking about sensory overload, but that's another story. Anyway, sorry. There are just very, very many people, no matter where you go. In the small countryside, like where I grew up, you don't have any grocery stores anymore, stuff like that. So you're always forced to go to the bigger cities, and there's so much of everything. It is just constantly overwhelming, especially with the combination of the mood of the people. Sweden, as I have experienced this, is much softer, except for dollar store. But that's another story. But all the stores that are here and all the public places that I have seen, they offer toilets for free, for example, which is not the case in Germany, which makes everyone much more comfortable because you can just use the bathroom wherever you are. The whole interior is oriented in this hygge concept that actually comes from Denmark, if I remember this right. So it's natural colors, natural soft light, and nothing is so loud. People here are kind. They make space for you. They have this mindset of whether you are in a cafe or in a small shop or even in a bigger shop, There is this mindset of we share this place together, we share this, while Germans usually have this mindset, I am here now, so you are going to make space for me. And this is not the case here. People don't spend hours and hours like taking over space while exactly knowing that others want to be there too. By the way, Jonna Jinton's shop opening was the perfect example for this, because there was the most chilled crowd I ever experienced. Really, in Germany, nothing of this would have worked out the way it did here. That was just beautiful. Next thing is something where both countries have their pluses and minuses, big pluses and big minuses. Healthcare and the mental health attitude in general. Germany has one of the best healthcare systems in the whole world. I won't argue about that. It is really, really good compared to the rest of the world. It's not perfect. There still is lacking a lot of things, but it is really good. But still, when it comes to mental health, you have still this stigma, and especially when it comes to things like being highly sensitive. And what the situation doesn't make any better is that this high stress and need for productivity and all of this constantly being overloaded leads to a faster burnout. In combination with that mindset of being pessimistic in general, depression is like always right around the corner. That is about mental health. And like in all the Western modern countries, I feel like when you go to the doctor because you are sick, you just get your symptoms treated, but never the cause of the sickness, like the actual cause of the sickness. That is a huge problem that we also have in Sweden. On top of that, in Sweden, especially where I live here, it sometimes can be really hard to have access to healthcare. Sometimes you have to travel really far for proper treatment. For example, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I am informed, there is no proper treatment for things like cancer or certain cancer diseases in Jämtland. So it can happen that you have to travel to Göteborg or to Stockholm to get a proper treatment for a special sickness that you have. But still, if you ask for help, you will get help here. And people are much more friendlier from what I experienced. And another thing is that people are much more open to talk about mental health. Sweden is known for its focus on work-life balance, and you can really feel that. And lastly, something that I randomly really love about Sweden is that you take off your street shoes when you enter a healthcare institution, also schools, and you put on your house shoes or like Crocs or something, which I think makes it much more comfy and you feel like much more at home immediately. I think that's very nice. So now we are already at the last topic, and for me personally, one of the most important ones, which is creativity and inner life in general. In Germany, creativity usually has to justify itself. You want to be an artist? Good luck. Your dreams need to be logical, profitable, and structured. Otherwise, they won't be taken seriously. Telling your parents something like, I want to become an artist, is at the same level like telling them, I hate you and my biggest dream is to become homeless and a heroin addict. As someone who is extremely intuitive and creative, an environment like this just felt horrifying and numbing. I always felt like I am in the wrong place. It really was not nice. I constantly had to explain myself and justify my dreams and really defend my idea of that maybe one day I could be earning money with my art. I was really seen as super delusional. In Sweden, so far, what I experienced is there is so much more openness in general. Creativity is valued and even celebrated. It starts already in school I know that from a friend who works in school, and she really loves how creative the kids get to be there, and it continues in adult life. Many Swedes have a side hustle, like a side business, where they earn some extra money with something like pottery or painting or crafts or giving workshops or something like that. There is this overall mentality here of everything is possible that makes people like me feel seen and like I can express myself without the constant fear of that I have to justify myself, or without overthinking it, or with the constant fear of being judged by people around me. And don't get me wrong, it's not always easy in Sweden, especially in areas like Jämtland, where there is not very much richness in economically speaking ways. But the mindset here in general is super supportive. And that is what makes the difference, I think. So yes, of course, both countries have their strengths and their challenges. But for me, as a highly sensitive person, Sweden has done so much good for me. The experience has been like night and day. I wouldn't trade my life for anything anymore. I wouldn't want to move away anymore. Germany, for 27 years, has caused nothing but fear, self-doubt, and at some point even self-destruction. In Sweden, I am here to heal. I am here to really be myself, to really express myself, to feel myself. And so far, this works really well. Here where I am now, I have the possibility to live out my creativity, to listen to my intuition, to really feel, and to truly just be if I want to do that. And my creativity and my intuition is seen as a value from other people. It's appreciated even. Here, I ask for help, and I am not seen as someone who is weak. I am seen as someone who needs help. Here, I can go to nature, whatever that means, how far I want to drive or to walk, and I don't have to share this place with 500 other people, and I don't have to listen to airplanes flying over my head, or trains, or construction site, or some agriculture things going on. I can truly enjoy silence and solitude if I seek it. And that is all I ever wanted in my whole life. So yes, for my being of highly sensitive person, for my high sensitivity, this was the 100% right decision. If it is the right one for you, you have to decide that for yourself. I can't decide that for you, but maybe this helped you to learn something about yourself or to get a new perspective on things. And if you would like to share your experience between those two countries, or maybe you can share your experience with even other countries, please feel free to share that experience in the comments below. I am more than happy to read them and to see people connecting in this small community that we are building here right now. So I thank you so much for commenting. I thank you so much for being here with me, for listening to my story and to my perspective on those things. And now I wish you an absolutely wonderful, magical, calm day. I hope you have a relaxed nervous system, and I'm more than happy to see you again next week, probably.